All right, we have a candidate for governor today. I think this is the first gubernatorial candidate that we've had on the show.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
and and it's quite a state to be running for governor in. This is Dayna Marie Foster. She is running for governor in the state of Florida. So let's welcome her in. Hey, Dana, welcome to Left
Mhm.
Out Loud.
you. Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So let's get started. I like to start at the beginning, but I think I want to start kind of in the present moment and maybe I'll
Okay.
ask some background questions as
hmm
we go on. Um, Running for governor in Florida, there is a state term limit in Florida. So
hmm
no incumbent because Ron DeSantis is term expired.
Correct.
So this is his last year as the governor of Florida.
hmm
And I think, you'd have to be living kind of under a rock not to know the name Ron DeSantis, right? He's
Yeah.
probably one of the most controversial, divisive governors we've had
hmm
in a while. And he's kind of a household name because of the crazy stuff that he does. And I just want to read off some of the policies that Ron had
Okay.
during his time as governor, and he's still governor, by the way. Um, so he had the Don't Say Gay law,
hmm
which was about not having any um, classroom instruction about sexual orientation or gender identity.
hmm
He had restrictions on DEI.
hmm
He banned books.
hmm
He did curriculum changes around Black history to downplay the impacts of racism. He said things like people gained useful skills as slaves. That's kind of how he wanted to spin that, slavery curriculum.
hmm
Really tough on immigration, an absolute menace during COVID. Um,
It
Picked
was
a
so
fight with
bad.
so bad. Picked a fight
Like,
with Disney World. I mean, and those are just sort of the highlights. So
Yeah.
I'm knowing all of that and doing research obviously on you and your platform and your policies, such a strong juxtaposition between the two of you. How
Yes.
do you feel? How do you like? Where do you think Florida is right now? Do you think they have an appetite to get away from someone like Ron DeSantis and get someone in who's more unifying and more interested in putting out policies that really benefit Floridians?
Absolutely. And I think no matter what avenue you look at the data, you can see whether it's through social media, whether it's boots on the ground, actually talking to the constituents, even looking at like past voter data as it relates to like some of our amendments that we've had like in general election on our ballots. And a lot of the progressive like policies have been reaching either that threshold of the 60% or higher or getting like very close to it. And so
Hmm.
I believe that we are seeing the trend that more Floridians are leaning towards more progressive policies. But for some reason, there's a disconnect between our elected officials and the voices of we the people. And so now it's just incredibly important to make sure that we have the actual elected officials in office that are going to match the voices of we the people and push for the legislation that we are looking and seeking to have.
I love hearing about that data. I was not aware of that.
hmm
I don't live in Florida. Seth doesn't live in Florida.
hmm
And, we talk to candidates from all over the country, but Florida obviously isn't a monolith like everywhere
hmm
else in America. So I'm glad to see that data kind of proves that there is an appetite for
Yeah.
progressivism in Florida. That gives me hope.
No, absolutely. One of the most notable ones, just because we have it by law, that 60% threshold,
Hmm.
um, as it related to like reproductive health care and access to abortions within our state, I believe we
Right.
reached 57%.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We were really just only shy of like 3%. And it's not a matter of, us not having the numbers. What we're seeing is it's more of the issue of people coming out and voting and being
Hmm.
inspired to do so, being encouraged and also being informed. What I've noticed because I do come from an NPA background. I volunteered with the League of Women Voters here in Broward County. So I've noticed since COVID hit, there's been like a declination in the efforts of outreach across the board, especially on the Democratic side. We are
Okay.
known, we are the party for getting out there, knocking on the doors, meeting the people where they're at, going to different community events, tabling, and having those like registration like drives just
Hmm.
to make sure that people are coming out in historic numbers. And it really has not been the same like how it has been historically.
Yeah.
And we've seen an uptick in Republican like voter registration as opposed to like that consistent increasing trend within Democratic voters.
Fascinating. Fascinating data. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that. Dana, probably one of the last black eyes on the resume of a guy like Ron DeSantis is
Hmm.
Alligator Alcatraz,
Yeah.
and just the colossal failure that that was. But
Hmm.
what a lot of people still don't know, and what maybe some Floridians still don't know, is that the money that was used to build that place now is a wash. A lot of
Hmm.
that was hurricane funds,
Hmm.
um, funds that Trump promised to pay back in some sort of measure. Can you talk
Hmm.
about that just a little bit, and how
Hmm.
much that has left Florida, in the lurch heading
Hmm.
into hurricane season?
So I don't think we have a full kind of understanding and scope of what it will mean fiscally in terms of what type of expense is going to be like on our, our list. And how that all went down is of course DeSantis is always trying to get brownie points with the Trump administration and he's
Right.
trying to further his agenda to run for president, but I don't know how many times the American people have to let him know they don't want him for president. So, but I mean, hey, maybe one day it'll finally register. So he continued to build Alligator Alcatraz and, have this facility and thinking that he was going to be reimbursed by Trump. I mean, okay, yeah, Trump said it, but come on now. We know we can't believe anything that that man says.
Mhm.
And he totally reneged on his word. And he was like, oh, I never told you that. I never said I was going to reimburse you. So here we are being stuck to foot the bill as it
Yeah.
relates to Alligator Alcatraz. And even then, it's a little up in the air because I just saw something in the news about a couple of days ago where it's just saying, okay, Florida is going to have to foot the bill. And we don't know, like I said, exactly how that's going to look, especially for the new incoming governor. And then on top of that, you have to add the legislative or the legal aspects of things where, well, the lawsuits, they're going to be coming, and rightfully so, because this was a heinous crime on humanity.
Mm. Incredible that you're left on the hook. And like Seth said, I mean, it's going to require sacrifice to other things that Floridians need.
Hmm.
I mean, the
And
worst timing ever. The worst
yeah.
Yeah.
timing ever.
And
Yeah.
imagine believing Donald Trump is going to reimburse you just because he said so. I mean, did he also order some phones? I wonder if he's waiting on that Trump phone. Um, so incredibly short-sighted to think that Trump would ever
Yeah.
actually deliver on a statement like that. Um, so let's go backwards.
Hmm.
So you have a background in public service,
Hmm.
right? I know that you did work. I loved your story about working in a library
Hmm.
and not only just working in a library, but connecting with community members
Hmm.
and sort of teaching them how to use the library as
Hmm.
a resource and a tool,
Yeah.
whether it be applying for jobs or programs or you know, we think we live in this digital age, but
Yeah.
it's not everybody is on the same level in terms of
Right.
navigating a digital world. And even kids have to
Hmm.
learn how to use technology for the
Right.
first time at some time.
Hmm.
So talk to me about how those experiences have, or if they have,
Hmm.
sort of informed your desire to
Hmm.
run for governor.
So I would say that public libraries is absolutely a social good. And towards the end of like my grad school process, in some of my courses, we talked about how public libraries are more of like a community resource than just being a vessel of preservation for information, basically, right?
Mhm.
Because books are sources of information. And when you look at where a library is located and the community in which it's serving, right, you have to then look and see, okay, what services can we offer? What books can we have on our shelves to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the users? And for me, because I worked at the African American Research Library and Cultural Center here in Broward, we were located or are located within the historic community of Sistrunk.
Okay.
And so, with that being said, it is a predominantly African American community. It is, for the most part, low income. It's a food desert. So, keeping those things in mind, it's okay, well, what are the types of resources that we need to have present? And
Hmm.
so, of course, those decisions come from admin, but then who are the individuals that actually facilitate these resources or present
Right.
them and advertise them? That's where individuals like myself or my colleagues or anyone who had been like a supervisor for me, that's where like we step in.
Okay.
So, for example, one resource that we had were like hotspots for our veterans, and which just allows them to have access to like internet, right? But then you have
Hmm.
to look past that to see, okay, well, what does this mean though from a policy standpoint or public administration? And so what that highlighted was is we have these individuals who put their life on the line and sacrifice so much for the protection of our country, and then they come back home and they don't always have the plans or the situations in place and the support from our government to be able to basically come back into society, right?
Hmm.
And so we see a lot of our veterans that are displaced, whether if they're suffering from homelessness or, they're not able to find a job. So that's kind of where we stepped in as libraries to ensure that, okay, we're providing some type of resource. If we give access to the internet, then maybe we're able to help create that bridge to help finding employment, right?
I
Even
love
with
that.
literacy issues
Hmm.
and ensuring that we're offering computer classes to make sure that we're ensuring that constituents are digitally literate, even whether it's from a basic sense of using Google or something more involved of Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or even Excel, because then those types of skills are transferable, they're able to obtain a job. And again, kind of going back to that topic of like homelessness, which has been criminalized within the state of Florida per
Uh-huh.
DeSantis, even for students who would come for homework help, right? And so, for my personal experience working in libraries, I was able to see what we were offering as a supplement or a direct source of aid, right? And support to the people that the government was not, and how
Mm.
poor public policy translates into our everyday lives. And
Brilliant.
I was able to transfer from being in public libraries for almost 10 years into becoming an educator for the last 5 years.
Hmm.
And that really exposed me to public policy in a different font as well, because now you're getting into the nitty-gritty details of, for example, um, when we talk about students who might have behavioral issues and being able to identify a crisis before it even happens. So
Right.
making sure like those red flag laws are strengthened so that we are exercising an abundance of caution and safety so that we
Hmm.
don't see tragedies like MSD happen again, like within not just
Yep.
Broward County, but the entire state. When we see that students aren't coming to school, especially students who are either immigrants or their parents are immigrants, they're
Hmm.
not coming to school because they're afraid that they're going to get picked up by ICE because ICE is patrolling throughout our communities because we have an attorney general that has bullied municipalities into signing 287G agreements, which are technically optional. They did not have to, right?
Mm.
Hmm.
So this type of experience has allowed for me to understand what's happening, right? From Tallahassee to us, seeing how it's translating. And now I'm able to take these experiences back to Tallahassee and say, no, that's not going to work. But then to add an extra layer of protection and advocacy because I do that for my students right now.
Hmm.
And I have the opportunity to do that for 23.7 million people in this
Yeah.
entire state. And also just having a backbone, because what most of us have to remember is that Florida is the testing site and playground for Project 2025. And when we look at some of the laws that have been rolled out over the last just year, we can see how they're coming directly from the pages of this horrible instruction manual.
Yeah.
And so, with that being said, our governor is going to be that first line of defense to the federal administration. Historically, we haven't really looked at them as such, but within the
Hmm.
last, year, with being underneath yet again a Trump administration, this newfound responsibility has been placed on governors, especially Democratic ones, across the entire country.
Yep.
We have to coalesce and be able to stand up to this administration and put all of our minds, resources, everything like that together to make sure that we get this man out of office
Hmm.
because he's not fit to be president of this country. And
100%.
so there's a line that Randy Weingarten uses in one of her books that I read, but it's that fascists fear teachers. And so since Florida is home to
Mm.
Trump and Trump
Mhm.
is a fascist, what better person to be the next governor of Florida than the very person that a fascist would fear, a teacher?
Absolutely. I really love what you said about, well, so much, but I love that the library was sort of structured around the needs of the communities instead
Hmm.
of, as you said, serving as this brick and mortar place just for archival of
Yeah.
books and information to be able, it would be wonderful. And I'm sure this is probably just part of who you are
Hmm.
to use that as a template
Hmm.
statewide, serving
Hmm.
as the governor, right? Being
Hmm.
able to see that not every community is the same throughout Florida. The
Right.
needs are very vastly different, right?
Hmm.
Depending on socioeconomic status,
Hmm.
depending on, you know, higher or lower scores in terms of education and
Yeah.
testing. So I think, wow, what a great foundation for
Thank
you
you.
to be taking all of that experience into government.
Thank you.
Really refreshing.
Thank you. And, I do like that you said that, you know, communities know themselves
Yeah,
best.
yeah.
And it's something that our campaign talks about very candidly. It's something that I do campaign on, which is ensuring that we respect home rule as an administration should Florida elect me to be her next governor, because that's what DeSantis is not doing currently.
Hmm.
He's not respecting the autonomy of local government. I mean, if
Hmm.
we look at Live Local Act, it was put forth to address affordability issues, but it really doesn't help anyone. If anything, it's
Right.
harming our communities in the sense of them not being able to govern themselves effectively. And so, like, for example, I remember being at a young professionals network through the Urban League in Palm Beach County, just doing some campaign outreach. And during this panel discussion, it was discussed how Palm Beach can't even implement rent control.
Hmm.
And one of the key reasons why they're unable to do that is because there's a statewide ban on rent control per the Live
Hmm.
Local Act here in our state. And
Sad.
so, there are aspects of Live Local that can be used to the benefit of the people, but collectively, there's a lot of reformation that needs to happen within that piece of legislation.
100%. Yep.
So, uh, Dana, Florida is a destination state. Whether
Mhm.
whether the snowbirds want to retire there or people just want to go there
Mhm.
for a little vacation.
Mhm.
Coming from Alabama, I love to get down to the Panhandle myself, but I always say that you know, the Alabama beaches have whiter sand. I don't know if that's actually true. I like to think it's true. I like to think it's true. But right now, Florida being a destination state is incredibly expensive, right?
Mhm.
And Florida's in the middle of a housing crisis. And
Mhm.
so I want to know just some things that you would take into, if you were to win, some
Mhm.
ideas that you have to address that housing crisis, to address
Mhm.
housing affordability and the like?
hmm So I think it's really important to make sure that whenever you address any kind of issue in life, you address it like at the root. And so I don't have a one like direction kind of plan. There are a couple of different things that kind of are involved and that they overlap. So one thing that I want to ensure that we implement within like the first week is making sure that we're launching a commission to do an analysis on all state agencies and their mandates or pieces of legislation to see what is aiding in the affordability crisis and what is not. Because we have to fully identify like what are the root causes from a legislative standpoint.
Mhm.
Then to kind of combat the affordability crisis from a federal standpoint, right? Because inflation is monitored and controlled federally through the Fed and so on and so forth. But as a state, it is our responsibility for our government to ensure that they are providing some layer of protection. So a lot of my policy proposals that I do have within my platform is funded on one key principle, which is ensuring that we raise the corporate tax rate.
Mhm.
So my intention is to raise it by 2%. But even if we raise it by 1%, let alone like 0.5%, we're going to be able to generate anywhere between 1 to 2 billion extra dollars that we can add back into the budget. And so a part of these funds is making sure that we're able to allocate or appropriate certain funds within the budget so that it can be given to local government to ensure that we're able to provide affordable housing, right? So, for example, we have the Sadowski Trust Fund. It's always appropriated around like $400 million, like a year. I would ensure that that trust fund is appropriated, but then in addition, the funds are actually dispersed and allocated to local government, right?
Right.
What we want to see happen is the curation of what we call environmentally conscious communities of affordable housing as it relates to apartments that are built up to code, because we do have hurricanes here in Florida, and
Mhm.
they're built in areas of what we call transit hubs. And normally these areas are going to have the appropriate zoning so that we're not like stepping on the toes of areas that are deemed as like preserves or for conservation. The area is already zoned for housing. And then once they're placed there and it's an affordable housing structure, A, you're able to kind of have the supply. B, the cost is not going to be astronomically high. And then C, the way that this becomes environmentally conscious is because transit hub areas are usually walkable neighborhoods. So a grocery store is nearby. Public transportation is usually nearby, whether it's a bus terminal or railroad. Same thing for medical attention, like a hospital being nearby, any kind of pharmacy, just things of that nature. And so that's how we're starting to make sure that we're being responsible in the efforts of what we're putting forth for our community. When we talk about housing itself from a home ownership standpoint, what we want to do is explore using public land and keeping it as public land, right? We're so quick to sell it off, but public land is an asset, right? What we want to do is have community land trusts where we're able to build homes on. They will be significantly more affordable than a home purchased on the land where you own the home and the land. And what we want to do is just create the space for families, for example, to have a home, meaning a house, not an apartment, especially if you've got like 5 kids, right? And maybe two
Right.
dogs.
Yeah.
And so them having that ability to be in a home, save money simultaneously, and us creating that pathway to be able to have permanent home ownership where you're owning the home and the land and you're able to create that generational wealth so that you can keep the home in the family. You're able to pass it down through generations because that's what we're missing here, right? We have so many people that are living in apartments and townhomes because home ownership is not available. And then furthermore, sometimes if you have homes within a family, they're being lost, especially because, i.e., property taxes are incredibly high. And that's another
Mhm.
can of worms to talk about.
Mhm.
But, but that is our plan to make sure that we are providing policy-based solutions and creating bridges and pathways to generational wealth. Because we see too many families, especially young families, that are leaving Florida. And furthermore, our policies here in Florida are very unattractive, for a lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And people don't feel comfortable coming to visit our state. And
Hmm.
tourism is down. It's not, where it would usually be. We have a lot of, I know we call them snowbirds for short, but we have a lot of snowbirds that like did not come this
Yep.
past, winter because of the poor legislation that has been in place within our state.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm just very impressed by that plan. You know, it's something
Thank
that
you.
that our current president isn't very big on. Having a plan,
Yeah.
more concepts, as we know.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's really good stuff. Appreciate you
Thank
letting me
you.
know.
Thank you.
So, Dana, we
Hmm.
talked about, we kind of started this conversation talking about Ron DeSantis
Hmm.
because have to, right? He is the governor of Florida, has been
Hmm.
for the last 7 years. Um, a lot, he's so similar to Trump in that he really leans in to these sort of culture wars versus
Hmm.
meaningful legislation that's
Hmm.
helpful for the people that he serves. Do you think there's a pathway forward for Florida to get away from the culture war and the identity politics? Like,
Hmm.
how do things seem different now maybe than they did during the first Trump term, or
Hmm.
are they different now than they were, versus the first Ron DeSantis term? Like, are
Hmm.
you seeing any shifts happening just
Hmm.
in your community and
Hmm.
throughout, the state with people that you're talking to?
Um, Florida has always leaned a little bit more towards the conservative side.
Sure.
Um, but people do love to note that when Obama ran both times, we did go blue. So it's
Hmm.
there. Um, I truly believe it's a matter of making sure that we have the candidates that resonate with the people, that
Hmm.
connect with the people, that authenticity is there, and that genuine aspect actually translates into, well, trust, right?
Yep.
Being able to feel like, yes, I can trust the future of our home with this person to lead it ethically and morally like correct.
Hmm.
Do I believe that we can shift away from some of what seems like it's been the norm for the last 10 years? I do. Do I think that it's something that will happen overnight? No.
Right.
I think just like how it's going to take a process to flip our state legislature in the House and the Senate from being
Hmm.
a super minority to just even being a regular minority, and then at the next step is to be a majority, it's going to take time, and it really starts with making sure that we have the correct people in office that are going to promote um, things or attributes within our society, like making sure, for example, that we put humanity on a higher pedestal.
Mm.
When I see that, we have people across the entire state that are just so cruel to one
Yeah.
another, right?
Yeah.
I remember saying at the beginning of this journey that once ago, back in like the 70s, my mom used to tell me that you could go knock on your neighbor's door and ask for a cup of flour or a cup of sugar. But God forbid you did that in 2026,
Mm.
you might be putting your life like on the line knocking on
Exactly.
your
Yeah.
neighbor's door.
That's the truth.
And so we have to heal as a state and even as a country and as
Mm.
a world, because we are very broken. And that doesn't happen, though, when you have leaders in place that are promoting divisive rhetoric and spewing hatred and prejudice across all of our communities. And so I, along this journey, have had the opportunity, obviously, to mainly talk to Democrats, but I've also talked to Republicans like as well. And I think when we put some of the morals and personal values to the side and we're looking at the kitchen table issues,
Hmm.
we're all dealing with this affordability crisis.
Yeah.
Like the majority of us benefit from having strong public schools because they're pillars within our community.
Hmm.
And so once we see that we're kind of all in a similar space, and one statement that provides a lot of perspective, and I learned this from someone who formerly volunteered on our team. They said that we are all so much closer to becoming homeless than we are to becoming a billionaire, let
So
alone a
true.
millionaire.
Yeah.
So once we realize that we really are all in the same boat, and it's
Hmm.
really a different way that we should be looking at our politics, we're able to then finally come together. And
Yep.
so, like I mentioned, I do think that it's possible, but it's going to take time. And we have to make sure that we just have a leader in place that is going to promote unity instead
Hmm.
of disconnect.
I'm really keeping my eyes on Florida. I feel like Florida's kind of a litmus test, right? Because
Yeah.
especially when we look ahead to like 2028,
Hmm.
I feel like I'm so curious. I never want time to speed up, but
Hmm.
I am really curious and
Yeah.
impatient in terms of seeing how these elections shake out in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's gonna
would
be.
say, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, it's gonna be fun because it is, things are. You can tell that things are shifting. The
Hmm.
Miami mayor's race,
Yeah.
Boca Raton,
Yeah. The five votes.
losing the
Yeah.
Mar-a-Lago district. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
these are, eyebrow raising
Hmm.
things. And
Yeah.
so that does give me some hope.
Yeah.
You touched on the tourism aspect of Florida, and
Hmm.
obviously that's a major moneymaker
Hmm.
there, as we know. And it's fallen off. It's fallen off really across the country, but
Hmm.
but Florida, it's the big moneymaker, so it's more of a concern.
Hmm.
And you know whether it's the affordability of it, because obviously
Hmm.
taking a vacation is a luxury these days, whether
It
it's
is.
the
Yeah.
whether it's the expenses, or if you're Latino or something like that, you
Hmm.
may fear coming to a place like Florida because you might get harassed.
Yeah.
You might
Hmm.
ICE might be waiting
Yeah.
around the corner. You don't know.
It's both.
So
Yeah.
yeah, talk about like just like some of the damage that has been done to the
Hmm.
tourism industry of Florida, and just
Hmm.
maybe what you look forward to maybe changing
Hmm.
about that, and getting the energy back to the
Hmm.
tourism industry.
I always say that this is not checkers, it's chess. And what I mean by that is we have laws in place that are literally discriminatory. And so it's about making sure that we're overturning these laws so that we can have ones that are in place that are more equitable and they're more inclusive. For example, Florida has a law where you cannot operate in such a way where you're deemed to be a sanctuary state,
Mhm.
because then you're committing a crime. And that's how like the attorney general a general was able to bully local governments into signing 287G agreements. So you're going to see across the board that no, we're not going to have more visitors to Florida that are coming from, you know, other countries, because again, they're afraid that they're going to get picked up by ICE, especially when they're being racially profiled by ICE agents.
Yeah.
And the other aspect is it's a little bit of tourism, but it's also having certain Floridian like constituents moving out of Florida. And that's in reference to the LGBTQ community, because all of these pieces of legislation that are in place, especially ones that are coming for trans individuals, like bathroom bans or gender affirming care bans,
Mm.
I believe Florida has been deemed like dangerous for members of the LGBTQIA plus community to live and to visit. So just across the board, then you add on that layer of, well, if I have any moral compass, I'm not going to go and visit a state where I know that they're being prejudicial to immigrants and to the LGBTQIA community. So I'm just not going to visit at all. So now you have another demographic of individuals that are not coming. And what we're seeing is a financial burden being placed on a lot of our small business owners. So even something as simple as everyone talks about my nails, but I get my nails done. And where I go to get my nails done,
They're
I've
beautiful.
even,
I can't stop staring at them, by the way. I love the
Like
thank you.
color.
I noticed.
Obsessed.
I no, what is that? Electric
Obsessed.
blue,
It's
by the
It's
way?
like
beautiful. It's like a teal.
it's I don't know how to describe it, but it's cat eye. So it depends on
Okay.
how it
All right.
reflects. But
I
it's a
love
little bit
them.
of like our campaign blue, but like also I would say like our
I'm
ocean
glad you
waters as
brought them
well.
up because I've been
Yeah.
mesmerized the entire
Oh, thank
interview.
you. And but as I was mentioning with the owner of the nail shop where I get my nails done, he was even mentioning how things are so expensive, but then business is slow.
Mm,
So you're not able to create the same revenue that you used to. So now prices are going up and it's this whole vicious cycle, right? But then here we are as the consumers, and we're like, yeah, but this is now becoming a little like expensive. And now instead of
yeah.
getting my nails done every 2 weeks, I've got to wait like every 3 to 4 just to
Yep.
be able to like balance out my own personal budget, right? For some people, it's I can't get my nails done at all. For me, I don't have an extra mouth to feed because I don't have kids. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
married. It's just me. So,
Yep.
my budget looks different than a family of four, but then
Mm-hmm.
you think about a family of four, right? And then the impossible decisions that they have to like make.
Oh,
And then if this family is where the head of the household is a small business owner, again, it's another layer of pressure, of stress, of having to be able to like make ends meet. And I like to remind people of our state constitution. It is outlined where it says that we are all entitled to the pursuit of happiness.
yeah.
And so many of us right now are stuck in a space of being in survival mode. It's exhausting. It's
Mm-hmm.
very, very tiring. And so, underneath the foster administration, it's one step forward to stepping away from surviving and stepping into happiness.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love
I mean,
that.
we're out here talking about like politicizing our vacations.
I
Like,
know.
poli- uh, you said it. It's exhausting.
It
Like,
is.
can this please just go away forever?
Seriously. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll ever get back to a place of, once a pricing has kind of been established and accepted,
Hmm.
kind of sticks there.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, we saw that with COVID and
Hmm.
on and on and on.
Hmm.
Um, so, that's why we need more progressives and more democratic socialists. Okay, well, then we need stronger and more robust
Yeah.
social safety net programs to
Hmm.
help everyone
Yeah.
survive this current day economy.
Correct.
So before we get to Seth's final question, let's
Okay.
just talk about what it is that you need right now. You are grassroots. We talked about this before we
Yeah.
started recording.
Hmm.
It's exhausting being a grassroots candidate because there's not a lot of money.
Hmm.
So you have to put in a lot of time, a lot
Yeah.
of hours to campaigning.
Yeah.
So tell the audience how they can find you. Where are you? Your
Hmm.
website, your socials, um, and kind of list the things that
Yeah.
you would like or need for your campaign.
Absolutely. So I'll first say our website is fosterforflorida.com. You'll see this logo
Easy. Yep.
on the website.
Mhm.
And all of our socials are Foster for Florida, except for X. It's just the number four in the middle
Okay.
of Foster for and then Florida.
Got it.
Um, and for us, what we directly need, it's three things. So, number one is making sure that we have individuals signing up to be volunteers because we
Hmm.
need as many people, boots on the ground, knocking on doors, joining our virtual phone banks, and contacting constituents across the entire state just so that we can promote, name recognition and exposure, which leads me to number two, the name recognition and the exposure. So
Yeah.
if you do follow us on our socials, reposting our content, sharing our content, even making your own edits of our content. I sometimes get tagged or the campaign accounts get tagged in different videos that are made either using what we've produced or if someone is making their own post to help
Hmm.
promote the campaign and spread awareness. I really do appreciate the people of this state so much because when we say that we are the people's campaign, we literally are.
Yeah.
Our entire leadership team is composed of volunteers, of people from the entire state that have stepped up and said that we want to see this campaign succeed. We even have people currently like trying to get on leadership saying like, do you have any vacancies? Like
Oh, that's great.
we want to join, you know?
Yeah.
And so we're kind of getting to that place where leadership is full and we're not
Yeah.
able to like bring people on the leadership team, but we always have like room on field operations because again, we have to make sure that we're touching as many doors as we possibly can and
Hmm.
meeting the people where they are. Um, and the third aspect in which we need help is always fundraising.
Yeah.
And I always feel very conflicted about this because I am an everyday working class like citizen. Being
Hmm.
an educator, my salary is funded by taxpayer dollars,
Yep.
right? And I know the meaning of $10, $5, let alone $1, especially like how I mentioned, depending on what your home life looks like. If you're a single
Hmm.
parent or, you know, if you're in a two-parent household, but one of them is a small business owner. And so with that being said, and in other scenarios too, but with that being said, we do depend on the small dollar donations because we
Sure.
will not accept APAC money. We will not accept corporate PAC money or special interest group money. Like this campaign is truly founded on the people, you know?
Yeah.
And so we've come up with a fun kind of idea, which is if constituents are willing to like throw their own house party. So throw a fundraising house party. You can set like the minimum with your friend group,
I
get
love
like
that
5 to 10
idea.
people, right?
Yeah.
And maybe your minimum is you invite 10 friends and they all have to donate $20 and bring a
Hmm.
dish for like a potluck, right? Within your well community, right? Or your
Right.
nucleus, you're able to raise like $200 for the campaign, and that's $200 that we didn't have before,
That's a
you know?
fantastic idea. I
So
love
thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
But donations always help, and that can be done through our website. It is linked to our Act Blue, and it's just another way of making sure like we are staying completely grassroots. That's the only way you
Love
can
it.
donate to this campaign.
Love it. And the primary in Florida
Is
is,
August 18th.
I thought
So
it was
you must be
August. Okay.
registered to vote by July 20th. Um, if one wanted to vote for me in the primary election, they do have to be registered as a Democrat also
Okay.
by July 20th.
Okay.
Early voting takes place between August 8th through the 15th, with election day actually being the 18th. And I believe your vote by mail must be the request application must be mailed out by August 6th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So first, next deadline is July 20th.
Yes.
Register as a Democrat to vote
Yes.
for Dayna Marie Foster in
Yes.
Florida as your governor. So,
Yes.
yeah, spread the word because that's
Yes.
coming up fast. We are
Yeah.
July 2nd as of today, as of recording.
Unreal.
Yeah,
Like,
18
wow,
days.
that just
time is
happened.
flying. I
Yeah.
know.
Well, Dana, we first of all, we really appreciate your time today, and
Thank
what we do with
you.
all our candidates that come up
Mhm.
here, we have
Which
ourselves a little scale.
which she already said, but we're gonna say it
Yeah,
again.
I mean, she really
Okay.
kind of answered the question, but
Okay.
we always do this. We have our scale that has Bernie Sanders on one side and Chuck Schumer on the other, and we just make sure that everybody that comes on is grassroots, progressive
Yeah.
values, no PAC money, no APAC money, and you
Yeah.
already said all of those things.
Oh,
So obviously we know what kind of candidate you are, and so all of our people in
thank you.
Florida. I mean, we've interviewed
Mhm.
a couple people already in Florida. Bernard Taylor
Mhm.
was one.
Congress, yeah.
Ronnie Marchinson Rivera was another one. So if you've been
Yay.
watching our series, this is another good one.
Yep,
And
Thank you.
obviously wherever you are in Florida, you got to vote for a governor.
I was
right.
So
gonna say, can I like totally like blow up the scale and be like
do it.
AOC?
Yeah,
Yeah. You know what? That's
absolutely,
not a bad idea. Why do we only have
absolutely.
two men on that scale, Seth?
Yeah.
Right.
So what? Oh, hey, what? Hey,
Just for you. Just for
hey,
you.
Thank
I'm.
you.
Lance,
Why
we're gonna
not?
need that graphic.
Why
Yes.
not? Why not? So we'll get Lance right on that.
Hmm.
Okay.
But but that's great to obviously, we're just gonna slide you on over to AOC,
Okay.
and that's fantastic. And again, really a treat to speak with you today. And
Thank you.
Florida, I feel really good about Florida.
Yeah.
I've been seeing some crazy polls, like we're heading like Iowa and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alaska.
Yeah.
And I feel good about Montana. We had a great
Yeah.
Right.
conversation with the senator candidate up in
Yeah.
Montana. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Even
I
Ohio.
feel
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the country, we've reached sort of a tipping point, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've just all reached, I think, a ceiling, a threshold of tolerance, and we're just done. We need to move
Mm-hmm.
on. We need to address things that really matter and get out of all
Yeah.
of these bullshit culture war, identity
Mm-hmm.
politics that we've been stuck in for 10 years. We're all tired.
Yeah.
But you are, like a breath of fresh air and
Yeah.
Thank you.
energizing. And so I want to thank you. I know how busy you are. Your time is so valuable and
Thank you.
really appreciate you coming on. You're a friend of the show now. If you need
Yay. Thank
anything
you.
between now and
Yeah.
registration day, primary day, and beyond, please let us know.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having
Absolutely.
me.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Well, Ali, that was a great conversation with Dayna Marie Foster. I mean, I tell you what, we talked about how the mood and the vibes in Florida are changing, and I
Hmm.
think Dana is really a great representation of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's got great plans, things ready to go once she is hopefully elected.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're a progressive and we got the juice right now, Dana's the
Hmm.
one that you need to be looking at.
I just loved her. I thought she was fantastic. Um, Great backstory, working in education, before that working in a library and really understanding community needs based on that experience. And that's what we need in our politics. So many people, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that with progressive candidates, people that are really in public service for real, now wanting to take all of that experience and knowledge and turn it into public service in a political role. And I think, oh, it's so refreshing. Like it's so nice to see public servants running for political office versus the lawyers and the Ivy Leagues. I know I say it all the time, but it just makes me so happy.
Yeah, and I mean, she's right in line with folks like Ronnie or
Yeah.
Cynthia Rivera, like Bernard Taylor, right
Bernard
there in
Taylor.
Florida. I mean,
Yeah.
they're normal people trying to serve their community in
Hmm.
different ways, and the getting regular people back to Washington
Yeah.
is the way to get our progressive ideals around because especially in Florida, they're just chock full of APAC candidates. You
APAC
know,
candidates for
fake
sure.
Democrats, obviously Republicans. There's like, I mean, I was talking about it on live the other day. It was like 45-1 Republicans to Democrats in the APAC. I mean,
Crazy.
it's a mind numbing
Yeah.
percentage. So, it's tough over there, but I mean, she's got again great plans, great policies, and
Hmm.
again, folks, if you're in Florida, if you're around Florida, you got people in Florida, please let them know about this interview or about Dana,
Yeah.
because she deserves your vote.
Absolutely. And just a reminder, she said July 20th. If you are not registered as a Democrat and you want to participate in the primary and vote for Dana, July 20th is the cutoff for that. So, Floridians, if you're not registered, if you're an independent and you really like Dana, get in there, switch that ticket or register Democrat for the first time because that's the only way you can participate in this primary and vote for Dayna Marie Foster. Absolutely fabulous. So, whew, okay, we wrapped up a few interviews. We got a little break. We got a holiday coming. Today is the 2nd, 4th of July in a couple of days. You got a little trip. You're taking a trip to Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas.
So we're gonna get a little rest here, and then we'll be right back at it in about a week or so.
That's right. Another Super Tuesday awaits in about 4 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So happy 4th to you, Seth, to you, Lance. Enjoy your vacation. And I guess I'll see you guys hopefully in what, like, I don't know, 10 days maybe?
Yeah, we'll see you on the other side of 250 years of American badassness.
Oh my God, did you see somebody almost died at rehearsals today?
Yep.
What? Did you
Yep.
see? These girls are doing their dance routine, and I don't even know what fell from the stage, but if they had been inches closer, somebody would have died.
Tragedy. Avoided narrowly.
It's like the stage is rejecting this thing.
No,
Everything, the pool, the reflecting pool is rejecting the water. The stage is rejecting the dancers. Like
it's like Final Destination 8.
it really is. And there's
Oh
like
my God.
8 people wandering around the National Mall.
Oh my God.
Just terrible.
No
Anyway.
AC in the tents. What a disaster.
I saw the one woman was like, we're just looking for AC. It's like 100. We finally found one place that had AC. And, I went to the medic tent and the medic tent was great. They really got me hydrated. I'm like, why are you there? Why is anyone there? To have to go to a medic tent to celebrate America's 250th. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Hard pass.
Ooh. All right. Well, I will see you in 8, 9, 10 days. Something like that. All right, Seth.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.